For this video I initially wasn't sure who to hunt, but while brainstorming a video popped up on my YouTube start page, T6 Dark Icky, and to my astonishment the fit had almost no tank on it. On top of that I remembered the guy who made it. He was the one who had always been number 1 on the Abyssal Proving Ground leaderboard. When CCP was still hosting these events I also had a few fights against him which were mostly pretty one-sided, because I didn't have proper skills in addition to making lots of piloting errors. But I could never shake the feeling that him always running pirate ammo, pretty expensive implants and all the boosters that were allowed gave him a significant edge in our encounters. A few days later the unbelievable happened and he started streaming his abyssal runs, which made a gank attempt very simple. It almost seemed too easy, because I was able to see that he changed his fit slightly from reactive armor hardener and multispectrum coating to 2 multispectrum energized membranes, as well as that it confirmed the system that my locator agent gave me. I then quickly made the 4-jump trip from Jita to Sotrantera in my Loki and combat scanned his abyssal trace while he was still streaming. But when warping to the scanned location I didn't end up at a trace, but rather on a dead space grid, with an acceleration gate around 38,000 kilometers away from the destination. Luckily I knew this trick since I had tested it a few months ago, but it still meant I had to burn all this distance, without him noticing, to not scare him away. Therefore I chose to wait until he logs out and make the trip uncloaked in a hastily thrown together Magus fit, which did the task in about an hour. During that time I started thinking about a fit to gank the Icatursa, since I only had one character to my disposal, which is not very optimal for high-sec ganking. Firstly I recreated his fit in Pythor from the information I had gathered, and it quickly became obvious that I can exploit the kinetic resistance hole in his armor. After that I looked at the Talos as well as Caldari battlecruisers and battleships, but I found them to either have not enough DPS application or to just be too expensive for a suicide mission. I settled on the Typhoon Fleet Issue, because it combined high DPS from its traits with great application from the rapid heavy missile launchers, together with being relatively affordable. I estimated my time to kill to be around 15 seconds with the Concorde response time in 0.5 security space, and therefore tried to get as much damage applied in this time frame. With my current skills I ended up with rapid heavy missile launchers loaded with Fury heavy missiles as the main damage source, alongside some complementary DPS from 5 Wasps, Polarized Neutron blasters with Void. For tackle and application I chose 2 Tech 1 rigger rigs, a Grappler, a Web plus a Scoped Scram. The leftover slots were used to improve the sensor strength to be able to lock as fast as possible, which ended up at 3.58 seconds against the Icatursa. For boosters and implants I decided to boost my DPS a little more. Luckily Pythor has a handy tool where you can check the effective damage applied over time against a fit with its resistances, and with tackle modules applied to it, which I just had to compare against the raw hit points, an estimated repaired hit points during the kill time, to asses whether I can destroy the ship before Concorde stops me. With circa 12,000 against 11,000 I was content with the fit. Now that I had a bookmark just at the edge of the dead space grid where I could warp my gank vessel to, and which should put me within a few kilometers of his abyssal running spot, it was time to wait until he logs back on. As for the strategy, one planned to anchor a mobile depot at the trace to stop him from just jumping back into another abyss. I then would sit at 0 of the abyssal entrance, because he would pop out 5 kilometers of it at a random position. Afterwards I would ram him with heated prop to make warping off before I could lock him not viable, and drop my drones when closer to him, so they don't have to use their MWD and outtrack themselves. Once he exited his invulnerability state I would try to stay at around 3 kilometers to allow my blasters to track, and just overheat my weapons. I knew that with an ult he had several ways to defend himself from my solo gank, but I just hoped that the surprise factor would lead to him making a few mistakes so that I can still overwhelm the Icatursa. Surprisingly, just a few minutes after I had finished the trip with my Magus he logged back on, which made me rush back to Jita since I still had to buy the Typhoon Fleet Issue with its fit. However, I also didn't want to miss this opportunity, as he might use a different spot next time, or I am not at my computer the next time he decides to undock. After I had hurried back to the systems of Sotrantera and warped to the previously made bookmark, it was finally the moment of truth.